Добрый день, уважаемые дамы и господа.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. The second summit of the gas exporting countries forum has just come to an end. Its agenda was quite substantial. In an open and trustworthy atmosphere, current state of affairs and prospects of the global gas market, the global gas industry were discussed. We outlined plans to further coordinate joint steps to ensure global energy security, sustainable and predictable development of global gas industry and largest regional markets. The participants of the summit were unanimous in their conclusions, according to which the prestige and authority of our forum is growing. It has transformed into a full-fledged international organization, have an active impact on volume and stability of supply of the most strategic resource, natural gas. We believe that it is important to establish predictable and clear-cut rules of game at this sensitive market, which would not be changed unilaterally for the longer period of time. That they will not depend on various up-to-the-minute trends, including political developments. Both producers and consumers should be confident in the future. They should have an opportunity to build their investment plans in advance, guaranteeing the payback of their investments, thus guaranteeing the reliability of the energy resource base of the global economy and social development for the longer term. Unfortunately, not everybody understands these obvious things. The illusion of simple solutions persists, together with the aspiration to achieve up-to-the-minute unilateral benefits without taking into account the longer perspective. Thus, certain countries of the GECF, including Russia, have faced absurd regulatory restrictions, as a result of which consumers suffer. That's the third energy package of the European Union. We believe that we need to create the relevant mechanisms of preventive protection from such steps, and the forum is a good platform for such a dialogue and search for common approaches. We're not going to exercise pressure on the consumers, which is counterproductive and unfair. We want our point of view to be heard and our position to be taken into account. It is important to create conditions to build equitable partnership relations between producing and consuming countries of gas, both at global and regional levels. Of course, we've discussed such an overarching topic as pricing of natural gas. Let me note that what is acceptable in the field of oil sales, where global market is developed, including the well-developed regulation instruments, is not acceptable for the gas market. We believe that the contractual gas price should be determined based on oil and oil products indexation as a market indicator. The conclusion of long-term contracts will help to fairly share risks for producers and buyers of natural gas. Thus, the conditions would be created to attract large-scale investments into development of gas industry, its infrastructure and technological base, in the development of fields in remote areas and offshore. We're putting forth a clear-cut, mutually binding formula of global energy security. Producers guarantee the growing supply of feedstock for the longer term, and in its turn, consumers make their own contribution into ensuring global energy security through ensuring long-term demand. We've thoroughly discussed the idea of expanding the area of application of gas, including gas engine development, gas for chemical use with deep-level, high-level processing. We've got great developments in this field, and we could speak of creating technological cooperation alliances, on joint scientific research, on ensuring high environmental standards for gas use, for modern technologies in the field of gas production and transportation, and industrial development of unconventional gas reserves. Yet another important area of the forum development is its own expert and forecast activity on comprehensive study of global market of gas and competitive energy sources. This work is gaining momentum, and we welcome that. We hope that the global gas model will become the next landmark in our work that would allow to represent their own forecasts and global market outlooks by the members of GCF. The outcome of our work was reflected in the Moscow Declaration. I would like to note with satisfaction that most of our approaches to the development of gas market ensuring energy security converge. We believe that we'll be able to create efficient mechanisms of protecting interests of gas extracting contracts based on clear-cut, rational market approaches. Thank you very much for your attention. Dear colleagues, now it's time to ask questions. We've got around 25 minutes for the questions and answer session. Let's start with Interfax Information Agency. Vladimir Vladimirovich, Russia, was the founding father of the GCF. Certain goals were put forth when this organization was created. What goals have been achieved? What are the priorities? For example, when you speak about solidarity, counteraction on restrictions existing on the gas market, you probably have discussed this idea. Were there any approaches expressed regarding the third energy package of the European Union? I have mentioned that already. And not only Russia, but many other countries have faced the restrictions in this field, and Russia was not the only one to mention this. The most important for us is to avoid decisions that would be retroactive in the future. We were developing pipelines, we were developing infrastructure, we were investing billions into the development of these projects based on rules existing at that time. Then the third energy package was adopted, and it started covering all the areas that have been developed before. Thus, it is not the fair way to do with to treat partners. We've been touching upon this problem in our contacts with European partners. We hope that our position will be heard and we'll be able to form the uniform approaches to this area, since it is important not only for Russia but for consumers as well. And depending on the situation, the investors will not be secure enough to invest their huge resources into the infrastructure. Hope that everybody will hear to our point of view. Another question from Intertas. How justified is the idea to compare GCF with OPEC and take into account the worsening situation on the gas market? Isn't it high time to turn it into gas cartel? Thank you. We are not pursuing the goal to create a gas cartel and to get into cartel conspiracies. The GCF was created as an expert platform for exchanging information, for developing uniform principles and approaches. What is the difference between OPEC and GCF? Its Director General of OPEC was present at our meeting, and he made a presentation at our summit. So the great difference, the key difference, boils down to the fact that OPEC determines quotas for oil extraction by its member states. Thus, it impacts the formation of prices on the international arena. On the contrary, such an energy source as gas doesn't have any global energy platforms. Even if we wanted to achieve that, we wouldn't be able to have an impact on the gas traded on stock exchange, because there are no such stock exchanges for gas. We haven't discussed the possibility of introducing quotas for the GCF member states. Not because we don't want to do that, but because it is impossible. The other thing could be possible, though. It could be possible to agree on initiating or suspending different projects that are finding themselves at the initial stage of extraction of gas. But this prospect of interaction between the GECF member states is not being discussed. Anthony? You were talking about shale gas and shale revolution, since it could be ranking first in gas extraction by the United States. As a result, Russia froze the development of Stockman field that was designed to export resources to the United States. Now, it is believed that the United States will start exporting LNG to Europe in the nearest future. What impact could it have on the revenues of Russia that are formed thanks to selling energy resources abroad? A different question, if you allow me. Now a lot is being discussed on the row that has to do with surveillance and eavesdropping by American energy services. What does gas have to do with it? Well, that's the second question. Out of curiosity, I would like to ask why nothing is being said about the eavesdropping of facts made by Russian security agencies, and what is the kind of state of affairs when eavesdropping is made for foreign missions present in Russia. Let's start with gas. Regarding shale gas, indeed, the United States are actively developing shale gas extraction. They're probably using other technologies, using byproduct gas, accompanying gas, using gas extracted from coal beds, and so on and so forth. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that 2 years ago the shale gas growth amounted to 84%, and last year this growth accounted for only 9%. Probably it is self-explanatory. I'm not trying to assert anything, but maybe our American friends have achieved a certain bar, as our energy experts say, and what would be the results of that, nobody knows. I can say that cost price of shale gas extraction is 5 times higher than that of natural gas extraction. Thirdly, Russia has enough opportunities and capabilities for the development of shale gas and for the implementation of conventional technologies. Our country is probably ranking first in terms of reserves, amounting to trillions of cubic meters, and you know that. And we have enough resources to meet our demand and to meet the demand of our partners. That is why it's not that relevant for us today. If technologies are to improve, we don't rule out this opportunity to use that kind of technology. Can the United States go to the global market with their reserves of shale gas? Maybe yes or maybe not. If it is the case, the volume of the supplies will not be that sufficient to have an impact on the global situation on the market. That is why we are not that concerned about that. And even if we are concerned, then only in terms of environmental protection, because shale gas extraction is a barbarian technology for natural resources extraction. And current technologies in the European countries and in Russia, irrespective of our enormous territory, is unacceptable. I'm speaking about the technologies here. And the second question that has to do with the surveillance and eavesdropping by security services. Well, it's not our business when allies tries to eavesdrop each other. Well, it's their business and it's up to them to decide. As I believe that's the information released by Mr. Snowden. Well, according to this information, no facts are released that Russian security agencies have been eavesdropping. But I don't rule out this opportunity. We used to have such evidence, but now I'm not going to go into details because it is to be discussed at an expert level. Well, in general, we don't know anything for sure who eavesdropped on whom and on what basis.
Moreover, the secret services of the United States are global players, and they are working globally. They have their own interests. The lawyers have such notion as executive excesses. When you instruct somebody to eavesdrop, they are peeping. When you instruct somebody to peep, they are eavesdropping. So please let our colleagues to judge who is right, who is wrong. Well, let's continue. RIA Novosti, please. Vladimir Vladimirovich, could you please tell me, you were mentioning the discussion of pricing matters. To what extent is the oil indexing is justified? And do you consider there opportunities to change the pricing in the future? It is hard to predict what future holds for us. I have mentioned it already, and I would like to underscore it once again. If the oil is traded at the stock exchange, it presents a global market with its own tools, with its own volumes, but current gas market is not that global. Gas market today is a total of regional markets. The United States has one market, Europe the other, Asian countries have still another market. We were talking about the Gazprom foregoing the shale revolution. Did it lose out? Why the gas supplies were reduced? Because the was increased because the main volumes went to Asia. Besides the growth of trade in liquefied natural gas, the situation in gas market will be bound to change. It will become as global as the oil market is. Today you have concluded the contract on oil supplies, and the tankers are already there in the port, but it is hard to do the same with gas, because it is another commodity. When we have the sufficient quantity of gas carriers, and it will be all around the world waiting for their turn, then the gas market will acquire traits which will make it resemble the oil markets. Then we will be thinking about other pricing mechanisms. But today, the oil-indexed gas prices are the most fair and the most marketable, because the oil price is determined by the market, and virtually all other energy sources are pegged to oil prices in different manners, because everything is defined by kilocalories. How many kilocalories are produced by burning that or another fuel, and that's why the oil prices are fair today. We are concluding our press conference, so the last question, please, Mayak. I will continue the pricing topic. You have already mentioned the Russia's argument about in favor of the long-term contracts, but the European consumers insist on revisiting the terms of those contracts. The reasons are turbulence of global economy, the increased competitiveness. Is Russia ready to meet European colleagues halfway? And if other members of the forum are ready to support Russia, or they are ready to yield. Of course, the main gas-producing countries are interested in oil-indexed gas prices, but those who are trading more, that are increasingly traded in LNG, they probably could have another approaches, but the oil-indexed prices are market ones, are market-based ones, and I do not know who support our partners, who are against our partners. All are supporting us. If the buyer insists on the prices that are in line with the economic expediency, it is quite natural. Those who sell want to sell at higher prices, those who buy want to buy at lower prices. Nothing special about that, nothing unique about that. But even the global economic crisis is not a pretext to act by non-market approaches. Otherwise, if anybody can gain something at some segment of global economy, at some segment of growth, it can have a little growth, but then everything can be reversed. If today we make the gas prices lower, it means that we will restrict producers in investments in the future projects. If they do not do that today, tomorrow it will be the reason for the contraction of global economy, and everybody should understand that. And we call upon our partners for that. Are there any more questions? Yes, please, couple of questions more. Please. Alexander Kolestrov, Author Journal, Vladimir Vladimirovich. But, however, is it possible, from your point of view, to establish more flexible contracts on the part of Russia when it is about supplying gas to Europe through the pipelines? For example, more short-term contracts, more flexible prices. Is that possible? You know, all these conversations start when the spot price appears to be lower than the long-term contracts pricing. For example, in the first quarter of this year, the spot price has become higher than the contract prices, and immediately all the talks about the changes in pricing were disappeared. Everything is possible. We should feel the interests of each other, and we should be able to negotiate. We are ready for such negotiations, but we are not ready for some decisions to be made unilaterally. One small question. Don't you think that Mr. Snowden will fly away with somebody of delegates of today's meeting? You should ask delegates that question. Mr. Snowden, I would like to emphasize that we cannot drive away from that topic. Mr. Snowden is not our agent, and he was never our agent. Our secret services never worked with him, and he himself is already feeling himself not a former employee of secret services. He is now a human rights activist, as he feels it, and he feels himself as a new dissident, resembling Sakharov, probably on another scale, but essentially he is an activist. He is fighting for human rights, for freedom, and you know, our human rights organizations advocated that we should not deport him to the countries where there is a capital punishment, but we should leave it to the professionals. Regarding the possible leaving of Mr. Snowden with somebody of delegations, I do not know anything about that. Last question, please. I would like to continue Snowden topic. I thought you were asking about gas. Snowden again. You mentioned that Snowden is a free person, but the paradox is that he doesn't have any documents. I didn't check that. The documents that allow him to move freely. What are the conditions for the Russia to extradite Snowden to United States? Russia never extradites anybody to anywhere, and we will not extradite anybody anywhere, and nobody extradites anybody to us. You know it well. At best, we exchanged our foreign intelligence service employees for those who was convicted by the courts in the Russian Federation. As regarding Mr. Snowden, I reiterate, he is not our agent, he is not cooperating with us. I declare it with utmost responsibility, he is not cooperating with us, and we are not working with him. He sees himself as a human rights activist, but in this regard, he is a free person. If he likes to go somewhere and somebody receives him, well, if he likes to stay here, there is one condition. He should cease his work aimed at damaging our American partners. No matter how strange it will sound from me, but since he's seeing himself as a human rights activist and fighting for human freedoms, he will not cease his activities. So he has to choose the country of stay and move there. When it happens, I do not know. If I had known that, I would have told you right now. Thank you very much.